I knew it was over the moment I saw the employee spotlight email land in my inbox, bright and shiny with confetti graphics and a pull quote from Tyler, the new innovation director, or whatever title they'd invented for him. "It's an honor to be leading the future of manufacturing," it said. Underneath a photo of Tyler giving a thumbs up in front of my automation system, my whiteboards blurred just enough to avoid legal liability, and my damn ergonomic chair, the one I ordered myself and paid for out of pocket because the company wasn't approving new furniture requests this quarter. Tyler Hoffman, fresh out of some MBA program, son of our CEO David Hoffman. Tyler, who once asked if our manufacturing processes were agile enough for the digital transformation space. Tyler, who just 3 weeks prior asked me to explain what a PLC actually controlled in front of the entire engineering team, and now he was leading innovation. Cute. My name is Thomas Patterson. I'm 57 years old, and I've been building manufacturing systems longer than this kid's been alive. So I sat there in the break room, coffee going cold, blinking at my phone, while everyone else oohed and awed over the announcement like it was the second coming of Steve Jobs. No one said my name, not even a nod. It was like I'd been scrubbed out of the narrative by some over-caffeinated PR intern with a delete key and a grudge. That morning, I'd already pushed 3 system updates to production, rewrote 2 safety protocols, and filed a proposal for something I knew damn well would save the company $300,000 annually. But sure, let's give Tyler the kudos. He's got LinkedIn followers, must be worth more than 22 years of keeping this operation from falling apart. If you're here, by the way, listening, maybe reliving some version of this hell from your own life, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I know every channel begs for it, but seriously, 95% of you never subscribe, and it makes our whole team feel like we're screaming into a void lined with unpaid overtime. It really does help us keep dropping these stories, especially the ones they don't want told. Back to Tyler. He arrived like most privileged hires do, late to meetings, early to self-promotion, allergic to actual work. Within 2 days of onboarding, he locked himself out of the system twice and scheduled a blue sky ideation session with a PowerPoint template that looked like it was designed by a kindergartner on Red Bull. I showed up, so did the production team. Tyler did not. Then came the meetings. The first time they introduced him to the board, I was told to hang back and observe. David, the CEO and Tyler's dad, said with that oily, condescending smile he reserves for employees over 50 who dare speak with confidence, "Just want to see how Tyler gels with the big picture stuff. You're more of a nuts and bolts operator, right? Nuts and bolts operator. The man who literally built the automation system they're now raising funds on. The man who rewrote the entire production architecture during COVID, while the rest of the team took mental health weeks and sent Slack updates from their home offices. But sure, let Tyler gel." I nodded, took notes, and later that night, I pulled down an old binder from the top shelf of my home office, the one with the faded duct tape spine and 3 yellowing dividers. Inside were early blueprints, time-stamped commits, email printouts, all from the months before we officially incorporated, all under my name. I flipped to the first divider. Tucked behind a USB drive was a post-it I barely remembered writing. It said, "In smudged pen, just in case." I smiled, not because I was angry, though I was, but because I'd seen this play out before. I'd worked too long in this industry not to recognize the arc. Experience builds, privilege gets the title. Experience supports, privilege gets the press. Experience questions, experience becomes difficult. I was already on step 3. HR had asked me just last week if I'd consider a generational awareness seminar to improve team dynamics. Translation: stop making Tyler look bad by knowing what you're talking about. So I leaned in, started saying less, watching more. I let Tyler bungle the production planning meetings. Let him misquote our specifications to investors. Let him send out a build with the test parameters still active, all while documenting everything. Timestamps, system logs, Slack threads. I created a personal vault on a separate drive, not out of spite, but out of muscle memory, because the longer you stay in the game, the more you learn. It's not the loudest person in the room who wins. It's the one who brings receipts, and mine had been baking for years. The first cut came disguised as a calendar update, strategic alignment meeting, core innovation roadmap. The kind of meeting I used to run. Now, I wasn't even invited. No email, no Slack ping, just a flicker on Tyler's screen as I passed his desk. The title visible between bites of his third protein bar of the morning. He caught me glancing and grinned like a golden retriever who just found a tennis ball. "Oh yeah," he said, wiping crumbs off his chin. "You're not on this one? It's just like high-level vision stuff, right?" "Right," I replied, not breaking stride. Wouldn't want to contaminate the vision with facts. He didn't get it. Of course he didn't. Then came the reassignments. Suddenly, I wasn't handling system architecture or production strategy. I was tasked with formatting maintenance reports and triple-checking inventory spreadsheets. "We just need someone with your attention to detail," Sarah Wells from HR said, as if she was handing me a medal instead of a mop. "And let's face it, Tom, no one organizes documentation like you." Documentation? That was rich, because while they were busy killing my career in slow motion, I was preparing theirs for burial. Still, I played along, nodded, smiled, went home, and created a private repository. I started logging everything, every deleted comment in our project management system, every minor tweak Tyler made to my specs, before pasting them into his presentations. I even began saving audio notes to myself, time-stamped summaries of decisions I wasn't allowed to make anymore, but was still cleaning up afterward. HR got involved soon after. A vague email requesting a quick sync turned into a 30-minute gaslighting opera featuring words like optics, feedback culture, and resistance to change. Apparently, someone on the team felt I came off as inflexible in a Slack thread about safety protocols. The irony. The thread in question had been me correcting Tyler when he suggested we could just optimize around the regulatory requirements until after the Series B. "I'm not saying you meant to be difficult," Sarah said, tilting her head like a middle school guidance counselor. "But in a modern workplace, adaptability really matters." I wanted to ask if adaptability mattered more than accuracy. If younger colleagues were ever asked to be more flexible when pointing out that, say, the production timeline was missing 3 critical steps. But I knew the answer, so instead I told her I'd reflect on the feedback and engage in more collaborative thinking. Then I walked straight to my desk and added a new folder to the vault, HR Communications. By the end of the week, Tyler had uploaded a presentation to the shared drive titled Q4 Innovation Pipeline. I opened it out of curiosity. Slide 1 was my system design, Slide 2, my exact workflow chart, Slide 3, my words, lifted straight from a technical specification I'd written 6 months prior. No edits, not even a font change. I stared at it for a full minute, wondering if it was even worth confronting him. Then I realized it wasn't theft, not in his mind. It was collaboration. I was just supporting the narrative. That's what they called it in meetings now. Everyone contributes. No one claims ownership, except, of course, when investors show up. Then it's all Tyler's baby. So I made my own slides, not for them, for me. I started tracking versions, saved comparison screenshots, watermarked originals, quietly downloaded every invoice that had my name attached to project budgets, every receipt for the equipment I purchased before we had proper funding. I exported system logs, annotated timelines, and documented dependencies they'd never untangle without me. I didn't know yet when I'd need it, but I knew one thing. This wasn't incompetence, it was strategy. They weren't overlooking me, they were replacing me slowly, deliberately, so it looked natural, like I'd faded out, drifted off, become irrelevant. But I hadn't faded, I hadn't drifted. I was watching, recording, waiting. Because they weren't just underestimating me. They were building their entire future on something they didn't legally own. And when the time came, I'd show them exactly how fatal that mistake would be. The server room was never locked. That's the thing. That always stuck with me. Not the betrayal, not the gaslighting, not even Tyler's brainstorm walls covered in stolen Post-its and business school buzzwords. No, what burned deepest was how little they cared about the infrastructure they were building their dreams on. It was all vapor and vibes with these people. They treated the company like a startup-themed escape room, energy drinks, standing desks, and optimism. Meanwhile, the real bones, the data, the early codebase, the buried architecture decisions that held the whole Frankenstein together, those were left unguarded, literally. So, I walked in at 9:48 p.m. on a Wednesday. Lights off, my badge still worked. No security cameras in that part of the floor because we never got around to phase 2 of the security upgrade. The hum of stacked servers welcomed me like an old friend, low and warm and mechanical. One of the few voices in that building that didn't lie. The hard drive I needed was easy to spot, still labeled in my handwriting from the early days. TP main backup, do not touch. And naturally, someone had touched it. The label was peeled halfway off, a coffee ring staining the corner. Tyler again, probably, or worse, someone even dumber. I plugged in my own encrypted drive and got to work. Methodical, quiet, precise. Core modules, early API builds, communications between me and our first angel investor, screenshots of Slack threads long deleted, backup versions of documents that had been edited for consistency by Tyler's invisible hand. I wasn't downloading company data. I was reclaiming my own work, years of it, buried under layers of team collaboration and revisionist history. While the files transferred, I sat cross-legged on the concrete floor and pulled up an old memory. October 14th, 2019, 1:07 a.m. My kitchen smelled like burnt ramen. The space heater under my desk kept shorting out the circuit. I'd just come back from my day job, consulting for a logistics firm, and I couldn't sleep. So I cracked open my laptop and started writing code. The first line became the first function, then a prototype, then a fragile little system that did something no one else in our space had done yet. It worked reliably, efficiently, on outdated hardware and spotty network connections. That was the night the company was born, though we didn't know it then. Back when it was just me, duct tape, a ThinkPad, and a dream I didn't even have the energy to name. I'd emailed a few colleagues that night with the subject line, "Finally cracked it." Attached was a zipped folder and a warning. Be gentle. Still has bugs. I'd built it all before a single NDA was signed, before a single founder's agreement was drafted, before any of the Hoffman family had so much as bought a whiteboard. The idea, the architecture, the executable files, mine. And I had proof. I stood up, brushed off my jeans, and walked back to my desk. The drive now full in my pocket, a relic, a weapon. Back at home, I opened my inbox and typed a phrase I hadn't searched in years. Provisional filing, US 82XX. There it was, dated and sealed. A quiet little email from the USPTO confirming my ownership of the system architecture, the core logic, the very soul of the product they now called revolutionary. Filed under my name, not the company's, not the founder's, mine. I stared at that line of text, my lips curling into the first real smile I'd allowed myself in weeks. It wasn't just pride, it was justice in slow motion. I'd done it right. Back then, I didn't even know why. Maybe paranoia, maybe instinct. But I'd filed before anything was formalized, before the boys showed up with their buzzwords and burn rates. Now, that filing was the quiet bomb ticking beneath their entire valuation. Let them keep their presentations. Let Tyler get his LinkedIn likes and conference panels. Let David sell the fantasy. I had the original blueprint and the receipt. The calendar invite hit my inbox at 7:13 a.m. sharp. Subject: Board Sync, Strategic Investment Review. No context, no prep docs, just a 30-minute block sandwiched between Tyler's innovation recap and some all-hands nobody ever paid attention to. I stared at the subject line for a full minute, coffee in hand, teeth clenched. They don't put strategic investment in the subject line unless someone's getting thrown off the ship. And I already knew who the body was. They just wanted me to show up and play dead. Still, I clicked accept, showered, dressed in the same navy blazer I wore the day we landed our first major client, the one I stayed up 3 nights straight engineering the demo for. Then, I printed exactly 1 page from my personal archive, the patent filing I'd submitted in 2019. I slipped it into a manila folder, not because I planned to use it, just because I wanted something in my hand when the axe dropped. When I stepped into the conference room, the energy was off. Too polished, too pre-coordinated. The kind of silence that only comes from rehearsed betrayal. David greeted me with a smile so tight it looked like it had been surgically attached. The other board members offered nods. Tyler was there, of course, in some limited edition sneakers that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Tom, David began, clasping his hands like a priest about to deliver last rites. Thanks for joining on short notice. Wanted to have a quick conversation about company direction. I sat down, opened my notebook, pen ready, pretending I was taking notes instead of counting the seconds until the mask dropped. David cleared his throat. As you know, we're heading into a crucial growth phase, and with that comes necessary adjustments in leadership alignment. We've been doing some thinking about organizational structure, specifically around roles that support versus drive innovation. Tyler nodded solemnly. The kid thought he was being respectful. David continued, "Your contributions have been solid, but frankly your approach is a little too old school for a company moving into the digital transformation space." There it was, word for word, like someone had dared him to say it out loud in 2024. Too old school. I didn't blink, didn't laugh, didn't flip the table, though I thought about it. Instead, I reached into my bag, pulled out my badge, and slid it across the table. No words, no drama, just metal against wood. David blinked, surprised. "So, you understand?" "I understand perfectly," I said, voice level. "Good luck with the transformation." Then I stood. One breath, two. I turned to leave, and no one stopped me. But before I walked out of that conference room for the last time, I took a little detour, back to my desk, back to my keyboard. One shared drive archive had been left untouched in the chaos. They assumed it was just legacy documentation. They always assume. I didn't delete it. That would set off alerts. I just tweaked permissions, just enough to make it inaccessible to everyone but me. I logged the change manually to avoid triggering automated systems. No flags, no emails, just silence. Then I shut my laptop, picked up the photo on my desk, me and the original team, back when we were all broke and hopeful, and slipped it into my bag. Left everything else. On the elevator ride down, my heart pounded like a war drum. Not from fear, not even from rage, from restraint. I could already feel the fire in my chest being replaced by something colder, sharper, something surgical. Because they thought the conference room was the end of the story, that I'd walk out like some bitter ghost, forgotten by next quarter's numbers. What they didn't know was that was just the prologue. 3 days after they escorted me out, legal finally noticed I was gone. The email came in plain text. No pleasantries, no call to check in, not even a fake HR best of luck on your next journey. Just a block of cold corporate speak from a junior counsel I'd never met. "Tom, per your offboarding, please confirm in writing that all proprietary assets, equipment, and intellectual property belonging to Hoffman Industries have been returned or destroyed. No signature, no thank you. No acknowledgement of 22 years of my life turned into lines of code and sleepless nights." I read it twice. Once as the old Tom, who might have still cared, still held out hope they'd realize the mistake. Then again, as the new Tom, the one forged in their dismissals, in their theft of my work, in their smug certainty that I'd fade into silence. I hit reply. "Assets not owned by you have not been returned." That was it. No attachments, no explanations, just enough to make someone in legal sweat through their button-up if they actually read it. But they didn't reply. Not that day, not the next. Silence, like they were hoping I'd go away if they just stopped making eye contact. Classic corporate tactic. Pretend ambiguity is consent. So I leaned into the ambiguity. I let the silence spread like a stain. Meanwhile, I got to work. I pulled up the LinkedIn page for our lead investor, Kenneth Wright, partner at Blackstone Capital, known for his data-driven diligence and quiet interest in IP ownership. Translation: the kind of man who would shake your hand and gut your valuation in the same meeting if your paperwork stank. We'd spoken once, years ago, during our seed round. He remembered me, not because I was loud, but because I asked the one question his team didn't expect. How does your firm handle IP recovery when a founder exits unplanned? His eyebrows had gone up. He'd smiled, slow and curious. You speak like someone who's seen things fall apart. I had. And I remembered the look in his eyes when I asked it. So I sent him a message. Subject: clarification request, IP attribution, short, professional. Just enough to raise an eyebrow without triggering a defensive forward to legal. "Hi, Kenneth. Hope this finds you well. There's a minor ambiguity in Hoffman Industries' IP documentation regarding foundational contributions. Before your team finalizes the Series B package, I'd like to provide clarification. Happy to do a quick sync if helpful. I knew the moment I sent it, he'd bite. These guys don't like surprises, especially not the kind that carry filing numbers and footnotes. Within 3 hours, his assistant replied, "Kenneth has 45 minutes free Friday at 2:30 p.m. Will that work?" Oh, it would work just fine. The next day, I sat on my porch with a fresh copy of the patent filing in my lap, watching the leaves shift in the wind like they were plotting something. My inbox pinged again. Press release draft leaked early. Hoffman Industries set to close 18mm Series B. Flagship product launch slated for Q1. Tyler's name was in it as Chief Innovation Officer. No mention of me. No hint of the years I spent building the foundation they were standing on. But I didn't feel rage this time. I felt ready. Because the fuse was lit. The dominoes were lined up. And Kenneth Wright wasn't just going to hear my side. He was going to see the folder, the filings, the contracts. The folder started as a joke, just a slim manila envelope I labeled "in case of fire," and shoved into my bag like it was nothing. But over the next few days, it thickened like a bruise. I spent my mornings in a quiet corner booth at Murphy's Diner, a place where the coffee tasted like regret and the Wi-Fi password was still password 123. Nobody asked questions there. The notary met me on a rainy Thursday. Mid-40s, smelled like peppermint and toner, didn't ask why I needed half a dozen documents certified, or why some of them included time-stamped screenshots of commit histories. She just checked my ID, clicked her little metal stamp, and slid everything back with a nod. Each page went into the folder like a brick being laid in a foundation no one else knew existed. First, the patent filing, stamped, signed, foundation of it all. Then the original blueprints drawn by hand, scanned, and annotated in the margins with notes I hadn't looked at in years. QA fixes. Tyler doesn't get this. That one made me laugh. Next, the architecture diagrams, still in their original CAD files, watermarked with my initials and the old timestamp from before the Hoffmans ever picked a company name. Then came the Slack exports, the emails, meeting notes where I'd flagged potential IP confusion, and the passive-aggressive replies from leadership brushing me off with phrases like, "not a priority this sprint." And finally, I printed a single page from an old startup legal guide. The clause was buried in Section 14. In the absence of a formal assignment agreement, intellectual property developed prior to incorporation remains the property of the individual creator. I highlighted it, folded it, slipped it into the very front of the folder like a bookmark soaked in gasoline. That evening, my phone buzzed. Subject: Q4 board meeting, investor presentation, location, 16th floor conference room, time, Friday, 3:00 p.m. Organizer, Kenneth Wright's assistant. No explanation, no CCs, no agenda attached. They didn't invite me. Of course not. I wasn't supposed to be in the room. That calendar event was a leak. Quiet, deliberate, a hint. They were going to show off the product. Try to seal the 18-minute deal. Use my work, my code, my diagrams, my architecture as props in a theater of deception. And Kenneth? He'd seen just enough to know something didn't smell right. He wanted me to walk in, not to talk, to detonate. The elevator ride to the 16th floor was silent, save for the soft hum of overhead lights and the low static buzz of my own pulse. I could feel the weight of the folder pressing against my palm like a living thing. Not fear, not even anger anymore. Just gravity. The kind that settles in your bones when you know, without question, that you're holding the end of someone else's fantasy. The conference room was already open. They were mid-presentation, voices elevated in that strained, cheerful cadence people use when they're pretending to believe their own pitch. Tyler stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled, sneakers gleaming, voice cracking slightly as he said something about leveraging automation efficiency at scale. A screen behind him showed my interface. Live demo, complete with the startup animation I designed on a Sunday in 2021 after skipping football to debug a sensor calibration issue. Nobody noticed me at first. I slipped in and stood quietly by the glass wall, watched them dance. Kenneth Wright sat 3 seats from the head, pen resting on his notepad, unreadable expression frozen into place. Then David saw me. The CEO's brow tightened like a drawstring garbage bag. His mouth twitched into a smile so sharp you could have shaved his ego with it. "Well, well," he said, loud enough to draw attention. "Surprised to see you here, Tom. Missed the spotlight already?" I stepped forward, calm, slow, folder in hand. "I thought the investors might want this," I said, simply placing the manila folder directly in front of Kenneth. David scoffed. "We're in the middle of something, Tom." "I know," I replied. "So is this." Tyler looked confused, which wasn't unusual, but now it was contagious. A few of the other board members leaned forward, eyeing the folder like it might start ticking. Kenneth didn't say a word. He just opened it. The first thing he saw was the clause, Section 14, highlighted in fluorescent yellow. Then came the blueprints, the diagrams, the time-stamped emails, the licensing agreement, the notarized filing, the signature, the patent number. With each page, his face cooled another degree, not in shock, but in recognition. In inevitability. I stood still, hands clasped in front of me, unmoving. David leaned toward Kenneth, trying to read upside down. "What is that?" Kenneth finally spoke, voice quiet but razor-edged. "You don't own this technology?" A beat passed. "Then who did you just fire?" Nobody breathed. Tyler's lips parted like he was about to ask a question, then closed again. His hand, I noticed, had started to shake. David said my name. Sharper this time. "Tom!" But I was already turning. "No need to finish," I said over my shoulder. "The folder does it for me." And then I walked out, footsteps echoing softly against the hardwood, while behind me the room erupted, not into shouts, not yet, but into scrambling, whispered curses, paper rustling like panic wearing a tie. I didn't look back, didn't need to, because 3 months later, Kenneth Wright's firm pulled out of the Series B. 2 weeks after that, the other investors followed. Tyler's LinkedIn now lists him as seeking new opportunities. David had to lay off half the engineering team to keep the lights on. And me, I'm consulting now. Funny thing about owning the patent to a revolutionary manufacturing system, turns out a lot of companies want to license it. For the right price, of course. Thanks for watching, you corporate warriors. Hit that subscribe button. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own.